What was the most impressive or eye-opening moment you've had with autonomous mobility? Something that made you think this could really change things? Jeffrey, would you like to start?
In a good way?
Only in a good way. Only in the good way. I knew this question will come. Only in a good way, please.
So I love playing a game when I'm riding in a Waymo. There's a little screen in front of you that shows the roadway, other roadway users, cars and trucks and parked vehicles and pedestrians. And the game that I play is, can I spy with my own little human eye the pedestrian before the Waymo does? And can I predict that pedestrian's behavior as well as the Waymo does? And over the last 6 months, Waymo's gotten better than I am at spotting the pedestrian. And as I said earlier, about predicting that pedestrian's behavior even as it becomes invisible to the LiDAR, and responding in order to make sure that the vehicle doesn't run over that pedestrian. It's the potential safety benefits there, I think, are rather extraordinary, and Waymo's not talking enough about that. Similarly, the one traffic law that Waymo does follow, and I think it's really the only traffic law that Waymo invariably follows, is it obeys the speed limit. And when there are, like, I get annoyed when there's a street full of Waymos stuck in traffic congestion, but when those Waymos are all following the speed limit, it makes every other vehicle on the road follow the speed limit as well. And the greater safety benefit from Waymo would be not Waymos necessarily being better than human drivers, but Waymos making human drivers safer drivers.
That's a nice one indeed. Thank you so much.
I think I would take two stories, one from the US and one from China, because we have been talking a lot about the Waymo. They are definitely the best in the world, but it's also good to see that other players might at some point reach that level. Well, first one from Waymo, obviously. I've been in the depot a year and a half ago. Our people will actually drive the vehicles from outside the depot, inside the depot to the place. And it was like a lot of people everywhere in that depot. I went back there earlier this year for CES. I went to Phoenix first. I tried it. I went to the depot, the biggest one in Phoenix. There were no one inside. The vehicles will just drive by themselves, just a few people around, and everything was walking out with only a few people. So this is the time where you think, okay, that's possible. You can do very big optimization. This is coming, but again, it takes time. Very quickly about China, I will not be too long on that, but we had the chance to go in China earlier on with the French ecosystem last December. We were inside a Pony AI robot taxi that was already L4 in a service, commercial service inside the city. And we had this very complicated moment where we had a tuk-tuk on the left and dogs coming towards us. And the behavior of the vehicle was amazing in order to avoid both of them and just maybe a bit aggressive, you will say. But it was the best way to actually manage to do not hit anyone. And I'm not sure a human driver would have done better. So very impressive. And that's things that needs obviously to be improved over time, but this is coming.
Thank you so much. Your most eye-opening moment when it comes to AVs.
When I saw the death and on the road fatalities in Africa, we in Switzerland and Europe in general, as well as in developed countries in North America, we very much increased road safety during the last 40 years. We are now at an acceptable level, even though we want to mitigate these fatalities, of course. But knowing that automated vehicles offers the potential that a whole continent like Africa doesn't have to go down that road that we walked the last 40 years, but can exceed directly the new technology. That is for me a major argument for automated vehicles. The second point is financing. Knowing the enormously huge amount of subsidies we are investing in classic public transport today, there is a huge potential in urban areas. And that's the second point. So I'm absolutely convinced this is part of the sustainable mobility, and that was the eye-opener when I got the figures out of Africa, what they are losing in road fatalities per year. So that's, for me, the major trigger.
Okay, thank you so much. Nicolas, you mentioned also a little bit the cultural aspect. The driving behavior in Asia is, of course, different to the one in Europe, and I guess the US as well. Coming here a little bit also to the next question, based on your experiences in the US, what are the key differences in deploying autonomous vehicles compared to Europe, and what specific lessons from San Francisco should Switzerland and the EU take into account? Scaling, for example, how complicated it is.
Well, I guess we can share this question, of course. I mean, we are learning a lot about all the challenges with the Waymo deployment. And again, obviously, we are speaking about very large roads, traffic lights on the other side of the road that you can see from very far away. We should not, again, underestimate the time it will take in Europe to fine-tune this system. So for me, the first challenge is actually to get the technology to the maturity we expect to have a good quality of service on our roads, and that will be a big challenge. Then obviously regulations will be a key topic in Europe. We have a lot of initiatives. Zurich is now, Switzerland is now a little bit leading the way. Both France and Germany have frameworks in 2022, but we are very much stuck with small-scale projects that will not help us to actually get approved those vehicles. So who is going to lead the way for the approval? If we want to have large-scale vehicles, we will need to get them approved, and if we have no vehicles approved, then we cannot deploy anything. So it's just the chicken-egg story, and this is where we are stuck today. So this is a difference because in the US, you need some authorization, but you can go fast. In Europe, it will be much slower, obviously.
I would urge Switzerland to learn from the incredible success of the Civilian Aviation Board in the United States in the 1930s. We're at a moment right now that really much more resembles the beginning days of the aviation industry, much more so than the story of the automotive industry in the United States, in which government has the opportunity to really invest in helping this industry thrive and to get through the rough patches on its way to success. In the United States in the 1930s, government convened all of the aviation developers in order to help the industry advance and build public trust, and created the safest transportation system in the world, far better than anything that we see in the automotive sector. And it's really, I think, an opportunity to get things right as a regulatory model. The other thing that I would urge you to be thinking about, as Jürg has already referred to, is the role of taxation, not only to make sure that you're able to maintain your basic infrastructure, but as an incentive structure for capturing the upside of this technology while minimizing the downside. With Uber and Lyft, we saw a significant increase in urban traffic congestion as it emphasized user convenience over system efficiency. You can correct for that with taxation. We know, and the examples in London and Oslo and New York are really clear, that the only way to solve for traffic congestion is through pricing. Congestion is not an infrastructure problem, it's an economic problem and is only susceptible to economic solutions. With AV technology and the data that is available, you can build taxation into the operating model in order to make sure that traffic continues to flow smoothly in your center cities. And this is not just about revenue, it's about the business case of the technology itself. No one is going to use AVs if AVs are simply stuck in traffic congestion. And the economy of your cities is going to be jeopardized if people flee more space-efficient modes of transportation to sit in a luxurious Waymo with awesome tunes. So build the taxation infrastructure into your regulatory structure, not only to make sure that you have revenue to maintain your roads, but more importantly, that industry succeeds by making it a part of an integrated transportation system.
Thank you for that. Definitely an interesting answer on your side. I think on our side here in Switzerland, this kind of pilot framework that the FEDRO established for many years is supporting, of course, to get a certain understanding of how to use these vehicles on public roads. Jeffrey, you mentioned in your presentation there's cash somewhere lying around in Switzerland to do this. I haven't found it yet, so please let me know where it is. I would like to use it. But coming to the next question, how should we address, and this is also a little bit something that I think, Jeffrey, you mentioned already, how should we address the risk of privately operated robotaxis competing with public transport? Should robotaxis be seen as a competition, or should they actually strengthen our public transport networks here in Switzerland?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Yes, it is.
That was a fast one.
No, I think this is the only and key questions we should have today for our European cities. We are talking to many PTAs across Europe. Obviously, we have Reuter from Oslo that is trying to lead the way, showing that we could deploy large scale of AV vehicles integrated within public transport, maybe with optimistic assumptions at first, but we need, there are no PTAs in France today that actually have this vision and try to actually understand what we could do if we would be able to manage intelligently, smartly, public transport with the AVs inside. There are some use cases that make sense and we should try to deploy it. And there are some use cases that doesn't make sense and we should not push technology for technology. We should not push, if there is a mass transit system that is working efficiently, do not replace it with AVs. Maybe it will be autonomous in the long term with new technologies. So we really need in Europe to start deploying projects where we experiment different type of use cases. Should we go in one specific suburban area and replace existing fixed lines where we transport only a few people, it's not very effective, and deploy some, either shuttle or passenger car, robotaxi or ride-hailing vehicles, whatever you want to call it, and offer better service. And can we compare the cost of operating those both services and have a better TCO for the operations with autonomous vehicles? This is a question that no one has yet answered. And there are a lot of studies everywhere, but people take a lot of assumptions as well in these studies. So we really need to continue deploying and testing different use cases that could be addressed within public transport. And obviously we don't want robotaxi to take the market share from public transport. We need to do it in a smart way.
Just staying here for a sec, I think you mentioned two aspects that are of importance. Of course, the cash. You somehow need to be able to finance these pilots or projects, whatever it is in the end. But it's also these push and pull factors, right? It's not just putting autonomous vehicles on public roads. It's also a parking space downtown, right? You need to talk to cities. In our cases, the states or the cantons. Let's quickly address the first one. Is Transdev also interested in joining European funded projects? Is that something you look into, knowing that next year there's something coming out with a lot of money, from what I heard, for a few minor projects? Is that actually something of interest for you guys?
Do we have any joker here? Or? We have experience with Horizon 20 projects. Financial follow-up is not an easy task. The tools are not very something you would like to work with. I have to be critical, and I usually say what I think, so I will go for it. But we have been spending a lot of money for a lot of projects where we were doing exactly the same thing, splitting this money in different countries. Obviously, it's good. A lot of people have learned from it. Transdev learned from it. A lot of operator. But we should stop. We should start just launching 1-2 key projects across Europe where we actually scale and use technology that works, which is not so easy to find, honestly. If Waymo will be interested to do public transport in Europe, I think everyone will know it. So yes, if the Horizon 20 projects that you are mentioning in 2026 is out, we will definitely look into it. But I urge the Commission to really make good choices and to think about what should be this score about? Because we have been doing the show projects with 59 partners. It was very complicated. Then they didn't wait for the end of this project to launch the Ultimo project, where we are doing exactly the same thing. And now we are going for this new tender. So please make sure that this new project will make sense. We don't need that many partners. We need a few places with a lot of vehicles.
Jürg, coming to you now, you heard it, we need cash. Second point is, which I think is more interesting actually, how should we deal, also according to the new ordinance, with cities, with cantons, municipalities? You heard for your two colleagues, we need to onboard them, right?
Yeah. Well, I haven't got the reality as do my colleagues, but perhaps we are talking too often about the business cases. In my view, there is no such thing in reality. There are use cases. But first goal can't be for public hands, politics and society, can't be to have access to a new business model, to earn money. For the manufacturers, yes, of course, but just because they can differentiate between the concurrents. That's okay, that's completely comprehensible. But then for public hands and politics and society, the only thing that counts is the added value. And added value I see in 2 points. Efficiency, that means space efficiency, cost efficiency, and in road safety. These are very concrete use cases. And when thinking so, and less speaking about business cases, then people may be able to understand that subsidies are absolutely necessary to make run what we want to have on our roads. So yes, I'm absolutely convinced automated vehicles have got added values in public transport as a complement to classic public transport, and they need, as classic public transport do, subsidies. Less subsidies than today, but they need absolutely subsidies. I'm convinced of that. And that's a point we are discussing with the Parliament, whether yes or no, they agree with that vision and with that point of view.
Thank you so much. Let's have a look at the next question, which I think is quite interesting. Jeffrey, you mentioned it, sharing data, especially in cases of an accident. What would be the ideal approach in your opinion? Or perhaps, Nicolas, you would like to start. How should we go forward?
Go ahead. I can go. Okay. I think it's not just about in the case of an accident. I said it a bit earlier on, but PTAs, PTOs, cities need to build the expertise to understand what is safety and what is the safety case. We cannot rely on the tech providers' data. And coming back to those projects that we are starting to launch in Europe with 10, 15, 20, 50 vehicles, if your tech provider tells you, I'm safe enough to remove the onboard operators, do you believe in it? What KPIs are you tracking? What threshold are you putting there? China has found a nice way of doing it. They just put onboard units in each of the vehicles, the local administration, and then they get the data by themselves. Honestly, as Transdev, when we start deploying this kind of project, we have our passenger app where we actually ask our safety operator to bring a lot of data back to us, because we know that we will never, they can give you a nice API where you think you have all the data, but just do it on your own. Make sure that the data you have is actually accurate. So it will also be the case for incident, and it will be even worse, but it's very important in the first phase of such projects, especially in the frame of public transport, that everyone can speak about data that are accurate. And if you only rely on the ones that are provided by tech providers, you might have some bad news at some point.
And again, I would look to the aviation industry as a much better example, where the aviation industry doesn't wait for planes to crash or to run into things before reporting a safety problem that needs some adjustment. Even the trucking industry uses an enormous suite of data in order to help optimize for safety and to look for the precursors to potential safety issues, like hard braking or sudden acceleration or violating the speed limit. And the trucking industry provides a tremendous amount of feedback to its own operators in order to help them perform better and get better over time. One of the challenges that industry talks about when it resists providing substantive safety data is personally identifiable information. And this is, I think, a red herring. One of the things that we have recommended is that the National Transportation Institutes housed in universities be the recipients of the teraquads of data that would arrive from the autonomous vehicle companies. It's way more data than any municipality can process effectively on its own. When that data is received by an independent university, they can parse the data in order to strip out anything that's personally identifiable and also look for patterns. And again, our job here is not to try to thwart the industry or to say that the industry is not safe. It is really about helping the industry continuously improve, providing a regulatory level playing field so that the best performers thrive, and allowing industry to expand their services just as ready as they are to demonstrate that they can meet key safety thresholds, including issues like interacting with police and fire, interacting with human traffic control officers, as well as how quickly can they correct for unexpected disengagements and what the impacts of those disengagements are on the rest of the transportation system as a whole.
We talked, just out of curiosity, we talked a lot about companies that try to transport people from A to B. What about logistics in the US? Is it the same with them regarding sharing data? Do you have any experience on this topic?
I have very limited experience. I mean, in my mind, in its limited state of analysis, the best business case for autonomous vehicle technology on roadways is long-distance freight. There are a variety of companies in the United States working on that issue. They are running into other interesting unintended challenges that have limited the ability of long-distance freight to really take off. That is potentially one of the best positive use cases, but it also raises the issue that there are 30,000 Americans whose job is truck driver.
Okay, thank you on that point. Coming to the next questions. This is something for all of you. Jeffrey, you mentioned it in your presentation as well, and let's elaborate a little bit on this. What role can and should Switzerland play in the European context in shaping the framework conditions for autonomous mobility? I think this is also something of interest, of course, for Jürg.
So again, my theory, knowing almost nothing about your country, is that there is the potential here to get regulatory alignment more rapidly than in other countries. We have really struggled with that in the United States, particularly in California, which is the leader in the United States at trying to get the regulation right. And California has really struggled with its multiple institutions that are not coordinating and not able to adjust quickly enough to keep ahead of industry. So I also theorize that Switzerland can jump way ahead of the European Union in terms of its ability to move quickly and strategically. But again, this is based on my own cultural prejudices.
Jürg, this is sounding pretty well, isn't it?
Yeah, our understanding of our role is the understanding of an enabler. We have to make sure that we enable industry, society, companies to get access to the potentials of automation driving. And at the same time, we have to pay attention to not over-regulate. And therefore, Switzerland, I think, I join Jeffrey there, we are really world champion when it comes to bottom-up affairs. Top-down, that's what we don't know. But bottom-up, that's what we can. So collaboration, that's the title of that reunion today. Collaboration between industry administration, politics, society, companies of public transport is really good, and we should give that access a chance. So trial and error is absolutely crucial. But that means that, yes, an error may happen, and we have to take risks. And that's a bit what the politics and public doesn't really accept today. We want to give access to digitalization, automation, to data transformation, everything, but we do not accept that we have to take risks. And that's a major topic on the politics, on the level of the politics, because when they don't cover us, then we won't take action.
Well, what I can say is that since a few weeks, months, France is looking at Switzerland. We have done in the past a lot of work in France to have those two regulatory frameworks, one for experimentation, one for commercial. And then we stopped there because we are not able to scale. Our law for experimentation does not allow us to have one remote supervision operator for a fleet of vehicles. We have to have 1-to-1, which obviously doesn't make sense if you want to have a business that's viable. So this is where we stand now, and the recent announcement about the way Switzerland is moving brings a lot of interest in the French ecosystem. Again, we have a lot of very mature discussions and technical discussions in this ecosystem and great companies, but we are a little bit stuck right now. And obviously, when we have done all this regulatory framework, we had some technologies that were not yet fully mature. Now we are closer from maturity. I think this is the right moment, so we continue to look at you. We hope that we can collaborate in some ways. And yes, I think definitely Switzerland should lead the way.
Hearing this, what do you think? Is it something we should still wait until, let's say, buy these vehicles? Because until now they are not 99.9% ready to be let outside or public roads, or is it something organizations, lots of cantons or states are sitting here in the audience as well, lots of other organizations, should they already deal with this topic and get a certain understanding, or should we still wait? What's your opinion on this?
Well, if we wait, we will, never. The artificial intelligence works and gets better when you actually deploy vehicles. So it's not only based on artificial intelligence, but if we want those vehicles to actually get better, then we need to deploy them. And it's not because we will have learned how people drive in the US and in China that we will know how people drive in France. So we need to have those vehicles in the road. So cities definitely must really think with their PTAs where will be the best fits for a large-scale deployment, identify zones that are less risky, obviously, where it makes sense, where there is a mobility needs. You don't want to do just the first mile, last mile project that we have all pushed because we only have had at the time those vehicles that can drive at 15 km/h. So now we have those technologies that are a little bit more mature, then let's try to go for large scale and again push all the PTAs and cities to try to take some risk. I like this approach, obviously, and we will only learn if we do that.
Let me offer a contrary view, because Nicolas, one of the things that I think you talked about earlier, which was very wise, is the importance of doing things at scale so that you could really understand that they work, where 100 tiny pilots doesn't make any sense, but rather focusing on where the best potential business case is and trying quickly to make it work at scale. One thing, though, that I want to add is the importance of looking at business case across multiple categories, and you spoke to this. So there's the economic business case. Does this make financial sense? And to do that, you need to understand that the bus operator, only half of what they do is drive the bus. The other half of what a bus operator does is manage the social context of the vehicle. And so it's important to consider the social business case as well. And this is really important. There is no real development of an autonomous vehicle that can handle a wheelchair. So the bus operator makes sure that a wheelchair user can actually get on the bus. The bus operator sees that there are some teenagers that are getting a little rowdy and quietly checks in with them so that those teenagers abide by the social contract. The bus operator is a social worker and directs people to social services or calls emergency services when it is crucially needed. These are things that bus operators do all day, every day. And while we see at different scales, autonomous technology works great at an urban metro scale. It works fine at a tiny elevator scale. We're finding in the United States really challenging social issues that arise on our small pilot autonomous shuttle experiments, many of which have been canceled early as a result of those social issues. So one of the things that I would encourage you to experiment with, which you don't have to wait for the autonomous vehicle technology, you can experiment with simply using Uber in order to figure out, is there a viable business case for low density or rural point-to-point shuttles for connecting people to urban transit? Is there a business case for mid-size shuttles if you hide the operator and make sure that that operator can't interact with passengers? So do the experiments, but do the experiments with eyes wide open around economic efficiency, around spatial efficiency, and around the social contract. All three of those business cases need to align.
Coming to the final questions on our side, and this one is definitely for you, the next one. Where would you like to be with autonomous mobility in the next 5 to 10 years? Is there a vision that you try to create currently internally, let's say 1,000 vehicles by 2030? Perhaps it might be a bit too much, let's see. Is that something you can imagine?
Yeah, I would like to say that we are following two approaches, the more or less evolutionary approach. And that's where vehicles get more and more automated, assisted. And we see two potentials within there. Diminution of congestion hours due to road incidents. We are speaking about 10 to 15%. That's a huge amount. And then the increase in road safety. And what we plan is that within the next 10 years, we can get access to that potential. And let's say we diminish 15% of congestion hours, then we would have fulfilled our goal in that approach. Then there is the revolutionary approach, vehicles without steering wheel. And there we get the vision that we are speaking about use cases and not business cases. Let's say, yeah, there is a business case, of course, but not in earning money, but in spending less than today. So as a complement of classic public transport in rural areas. That's where we are, and goal would be that within the next 10 years, we get some rural areas, such as both Appenzell, St. Gallen, for example, rural areas. We get access to that potential, and we are running with the companies of the public transport, autonomous buses, and that would be our goal. Just very down to earth.
And this sounds like we need a roadmap until 2030, right? That we can create together.
A roadmap, yes, but just on the voluntarily basis, not on the legal basis. I think that wouldn't be Swiss. and I think we have, once again, to pay really attention that we don't over-regulate. And what I can just mention here is that, in my view, we just over-regulated in the data protection. That's what we see now when it comes to the manufacturers to get their latest vehicles homologated. And the major problem there is the data protection.
Now, because I want the audience as well to ask some questions. Last question on my side, and please try to keep it really short and brief. In your opinion, what's the one thing we should do in Switzerland tomorrow to make meaningful progress with automated mobility? Short and brief, please.
You can start.
As you know our country quite well from what it seems. Yeah.
I mean, I think we already have addressed these questions, but continue the projects that you guys have announced and are trying to launch. Focus on only a few projects with big fleets, and show us the way and try to make this happen. And it will take time, but yeah, it has to be done. Otherwise, we will never see things going.
Set aside the industry hype. Ask smart questions of industry and demand the data to back up the answers. But most importantly, come visit San Francisco. Because there's nothing quite like seeing for yourself the unintended consequences, both good and bad, so that you can do better at capturing the upside and minimizing the downside while encouraging rapid development of the technology.